Afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to talk about conducive conditions and sanitation. This is going to be a fairly quick video. One of the things that we end up looking over or not knowing, especially when we've been in the industry for a little while, or if we are very new to the industry, we tend to look over conducive conditions and sanitation because we either get into a routine or we might not know what to look for. So this PowerPoint presentation is actually going to assist us with a lot of that. So let's go ahead and dive in. So what is cultural IPM? Cultural IPM is going to be one of those things that we hear about all the time. We have cultural, we have mechanical, we have chemical, we have all kinds of different control methods, but we're going to mainly talk about cultural IPM here. This is the environment. These are things that are going to affect insects and our ability to be able to control them. So, exterior residential. Okay, this is going to look like trees touching the roof line or fences, which can let ants, rodents, things like that access the house. Wood piles sitting next to the house. We look for carpenter ants, termites, or any other, insect that could harborage in there, spiders, scorpions, all kinds of things. Leaf piles, mulch covering weep holes. We'll look for things like this, especially with leaf piles that are going to be like scorpions, millipedes, pill bugs, ants. Mulch covering weep holes can really hide ants, they can hide termites. So there's all kinds of different things as far as the exterior of a residential house that we need to make sure that we're looking for. On the interior of the house, clutter, dishes piled up in the sink, not cleaning, food left out, overwatered house plants, all kinds of stuff are definitely things that we need to be talking to our customers about, right? If there's a lot of clutter, we could end up having scorpions, we could have brown recluses, we could have house spiders, dishes piled up in the sink, and overwatered house plants. If there's a lot of water, there could be drain flies or something like that that could end up being an issue for our customers. Not cleaning or food left out, German roaches, that's something that they love. They love having an easy food access, right? And we see the similar things in commercial, kitchen sanitation, another big one for German roaches. But we also see landscaping, door sweeps, dumpster area cleanliness, and just generally keeping doors closed. If we got some accounts that just keep their bay doors open or their side doors open to ventilate heat or just for ease of in and out, we could let rodents in. Landscaping can give rise to pill bugs, sow bugs, millipedes, ants. Door sweeps would let in, crawling insects such as ants, roaches, and dumpster area cleanliness is a big one for flies, right? How many times we go into a dumpster and it's just covered with flies because the whole dumpster area is nasty and it's not cleaned very well, right? So these are some things that we need to be looking at when we're inside of a residential house or outside or inside of a commercial building. Okay, so here's some examples of what to look for, right? We've got wood piles next to the house. We've got lots of, vegetation growing up against the sides of the house or around the house. We have tree limbs touching the house. We have wood piles next to the house. So all of these things are some examples of what we need to be looking for. Even in the picture with the red bricked house, you see that mulch at the end of the bush line there, where there's a separation. That mulch is really high up on the foundation. Yeah, I guarantee it's probably covering up some weep holes, which could allow termites or ants or something to get in there. So what do we need to mention on this particular photo? Okay, things that we need to be looking for is going to be roof joints, right? If we have roof joints that show that they have chew marks or gnaw marks on them, odds are there's some rodent pressure going on, and we need to take a look in the attic space or in the crawl space if a home has it, and identify whether or not they have an active rodent issue. And if they do, say something to your customer. Put in a lead for an inspector to go out and take a look and see if we can get the customer rodent exclusion done, right? Trees overhanging the house, touching the house. We want to make sure that we look at these things as well because they can let in acrobat ants. I tell you, I've had some times where I was a new technician, um, and I had an Acrobat ant issue and I could not figure it out. I was looking down below, I was trying to figure it out, and my mentor at the time had told me maybe check up high, see if there's any trees touching the house, see if there's any clogged gutters, things like that. And lo and behold, as soon as I went up on the roof and ended up finding that some trees were touching the house, there was a trail of acrobat ants going right into the gutter, right to where a nest was. So make sure we're looking up high for any trees that could be touching the house. It's also a way for squirrels, raccoons, possums, rats, and mice to access the house to cause roof joint chewing and things like that. So that way they can get into the house too, right? Look for the flower beds, right? Inside the flower beds, we want to make sure that there are no mosquitoes. We want to make sure that there's no spiders, no ants, anything hanging out in here. So we need to be taking a look as we're going around treating and not just spraying and going. We need to be doing a thorough inspection too. And then taking a look for any mulch that might be over the weep holes. Because if you have mulch that's covering weep holes, it can actually hide subterranean termites entering into the house, right? So we need to make sure that we're diligent in our inspection as we're treating. Because if we have issues inside the house, it's probably conducive to something that's going on outside the house. What to look for inside, right? We've got dishes piled up in the sink. This right here is roach haven. They got food on the plates. It's just piled up everywhere, and it's not being cleaned. It's not sanitary. So roaches are going to really, really thrive in an environment like this. Clutter, right? We've all seen homes like this from time to time. If we haven't, you will. Homes like this are a really big haven for spiders, roaches, mainly like American roaches, and even silverfish. This person has a bunch of books and paper everywhere. Silverfish could be all over the place in here. But primarily, we're going to be looking at this from more of a spider standpoint, maybe brown recluses or house spiders, things like that. If we have a house that looks like this, how can we effectively treat this house? We can't. So we need to make sure we're talking to our customer about eliminating some of that clutter. And houseplants, my absolute favorites. Okay. Houseplants are going to be a big thing when customers have forage flies, fungus gnats, and maybe even drain flies just because of the overwatered houseplants. Whenever we have a customer who calls in for forage flies, fungus gnats, drain flies, things like that, we need to be taking a look at the house plants too. Don't just go in and place a fruit fly trap and say, okay, we're done, because we're not done. You're going to keep going back and back and back all the time. So take your time, check out the house plants, see if there's a specific plant that these flies are hanging out in where they might be laying their eggs. And if you identify it, identify the infected plant. Tell the customer to move it outside so that way it dries out. Once that plant dries out, those eggs are going to end up dying off and it will no longer be a problem, right? Same thing. Think when we're thinking about potted plants, think about stored product pests, Indian meal moths, confused flower beetles. If you find what's infected and you remove what's infected, the situation does go away. Now, the natural fruit fly traps and the Invade Bio Drain, Invade Bio Mop, products like that will help treat the symptoms but not solve the problem. Okay, commercial properties, right? Commercial kitchens, even residential houses. I know this is a picture of a residential house, but we see it a lot in commercial as well. So this can actually work for both. These door seals that are at the bottom of every door, if they're not level, if they're not sealed, roaches, spiders, sow bugs, pill bugs, millipedes, and any other kind of crawling insect that we want to name off is going to make their way in here, because a lot of times what's going to happen, it may be hot outside, but they're going to feel that cool air leaking out from underneath and they're going to want to come inside. Think of the insects as just like us. I'm a big dude. Okay. I got a lot of extra fat on me. I don't want to be outside while it's hot. I want to go inside where there's some AC and a glass of iced tea. They want to do the same thing, right? So when you're treating your customer's house, check on the outside door seals. Cut commercial jobs, check on the door seals, see if we can do some exclusion work or recommend some handyman work so that we can eliminate future pest problems. Okay. Dishes piled up in a commercial kitchen, right? Look at all of this. Grease stains on the wall, dirty dishes hanging out, being cooked on. I definitely would not want to eat here, but these are good examples as to what German roaches are going to be feeding on and going after, right? Landscaping, okay? Landscaping around a building can really let in ants. I know we all have customers with these big bay windows, so eventually what's going to happen is there's silicone caulking around those windows. Eventually it dries up and it starts to crack and it creates gaps and ants will make their way in. So when we're treating around commercial buildings or if we're inside commercial buildings, make sure we're walking around, taking a look, seeing if there's something that we can do to be proactive for our customers before they have an issue. We don't want our customers to have to call us when there's an issue. They can if there is an issue, but we don't want them to have to, right? We want to be as preventative as possible. So take some time, a couple extra minutes, walk around the outside, take a look and see if there's something that we can go ahead and address to the groundskeeper or the property manager, or go ahead and treat like an ant bound before it becomes an issue for people working inside. Now, when we're inside of a commercial kitchen, this one is actually pretty clean. So when we're looking inside of a commercial kitchen, we want to look at the food prep areas, right? We want to look at the prep tables. We want to look at where the food is prepared and cooked. Check and see if those areas are clean. Make sure that there's not grease buildup. There's usually, if we deal with fast food or restaurants that deal with a lot of oil cooking, you'll usually find like a thin layer of like black grease or food up underneath some of the appliances that hasn't been cleaned in who knows how long. Okay. We also want to check the drains. Check the drains that are at those commercial sinks. They may have drain flies. Okay. Make sure there's water in the drains. If there's no water in the drains, we could also run into an issue with American roaches coming up through the drains. It does happen, especially on commercial. We can have American roaches hanging out in the drains, and that be a way that they get in. But a lot of what we're looking to eliminate is the food source, the food competition, right? If this kitchen has German roaches and we put out baits, but there's grease and old French fries and burger buns or what else have you hanging out underneath all of these appliances, what makes them want our bait? They have a safe, sustainable food source that they are going to munch on. They want nothing to do with what we're doing, right? So make sure you're talking to your customers about keeping their kitchens clean and talk about having a cleaning schedule, things like that to really help them out. But it also helps you out because then you can get rid of the problems that they may be facing and actually solve their problem and create a lasting customer and less service calls for you. I know there's plenty of technicians that I managed as a service manager that had some restaurants that we would just go back to and go back to and go back to because they weren't keeping the kitchens clean. But at the same time, the conversations were not being had. Anyone want to treat this? I don't. I would not want to treat this. There is so much grease and old buildup. It's just I would definitely not want to be anywhere near this if I was a pest control technician. Just saying. Okay. Sanitation practices. Exterior residential. We want to talk to our customers about not leaving trash outside, not leaving animal food out. We have some customers that want to feed the birds or feed the stray cats, and or if you're in rural areas, they think it's cool to feed the raccoons and watch them come up and eat, right? We don't want to do that. Okay. It's gonna give rise to a whole bunch of other issues. So make sure you're talking to your customers about not leaving food out. Making sure that your trash cans are secure from insects and wildlife. And what I mean by this is make sure that those trash cans are not just put away because ants can easily walk inside of a garage and get into them. Mice can work their way into a garage and get into them. What I mean by making sure trash cans are secure from insects and wildlife is making sure they're clean. If there's no food on them, if there's no trash in them that insects or animals want, then there's no reason for them to really get in there. Um, we would definitely want to make sure that we keep trash cans clean because it can save us from ants, it can save us from wasps, rodents, bees, a whole list of things. Okay, moving on to interior residential, cleaning regularly, bathrooms, kitchens, common areas, right? We want to make sure they're cleaned, not just picked up, but actually cleaned. You know, grab some Lysol wipes, grab some Lysol spray or some Pine Sol or a mop and a broom, mop and a bucket, something that we can actually clean. What this does is this is going to do so many different things inside your house, right? If we have ants, it's going to mess up pheromone trails. If we have roaches, we're going to eliminate potential food competition. If we have spiders, right? And other insects are not coming in because there's not any place for them to, nothing for them to feed on, nothing for them to hide in, then spiders are not really going to make their way inside too much either. It'll still happen, but not as much. Commercial. Daily and nightly maintenance of the food preparation areas. Make sure we're not leaving food out. Make sure we're not um, leaving food that any insects or rodents could get into. Okay. Monthly cleanings of the dumpster area. Make sure that they do this because if they have a pressure washer, they can have an employee go out there and pressure wash it. You know, maybe take a broom with some Dawn soap and scrub the concrete, whatever they need to do, some degreaser, and then also not leaving food out for insects and rodents. I've seen plenty of restaurants that'll have dry goods, right? They'll have dry goods in a pantry where they'll have some potatoes in there, or they'll have garlic, or they'll have flour, and just in the normal bags. You know, they can smell that. They know that's food. They're gonna go get into it. So make sure that when we're prepping and cleaning up, everything is either in cold storage or it is in airtight containers. And I would definitely talk to our commercial customers about this because if not, and they have roaches or they have drain flies or fruit flies, something, they're going to find something to eat. And we're never going to get control of certain issues. Okay. Now, I know some of this is a lot of new information. A lot of this can be um, confusing at times, especially for the new people. But if think about it like this in its most simple form, if you wouldn't have that around your house on the outside, wood piles, leaf piles, trees touching the house, if you wouldn't have that on your house, customer doesn't need it. If you wouldn't live in a nasty house so that you don't do dishes and don't clean and have tons of clutter and just be in a hoarder house, talk to your customers about it. Now, you can ask your manager for hints, tips, and tricks on how to approach this with your customer because we definitely don't want to upset them. We don't want to just go up to a customer and say, hey, your house is filthy, you need to clean it. That is one very quick way to make sure that you don't go back to that customer's house. Uh, I learned that lesson the hard way as a brand new technician, and it did not end very well. But there are tactful ways to approach this, and making sure that we understand how to communicate with our customers is important. Okay, so ask your manager, ask your branch manager. You can contact me if you want as well. I'm always here to answer questions for you. Most of y'all should have my contact information by now. If not, you know, you can get it from your managers as kind of an additional tool in your back pocket. I'm always here to help. All right. I thank y'all for your time. I thank you for being here. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.